Wednesday. I'm sports producer Scott Benjamin here with my guy Brett Gilbert.
What's up?
Brett, what's going on?
Well, first up, you know what's first up. Last night you said Hawks had, I think the quote was, no chance in hell at winning this game. We're going to get right into it because they won it. Trey Young with the dagger three at the end. What you think about that, Scott?
Look, if the Hawks are going to be motivated by my words and find ways to win these games that they shouldn't win, that there was no realistic way in hell that they would find a way to win, but somehow they found a way to win. If they're going to use my words as motivation, that's a good thing, right?
Are you trying to take credit for this? You said they couldn't do it, and now that they did it, you're like, oh, that was me. That was because I said it.
Okay, look, I'm not going to steal any credit. I mean, that was a tremendous effort by the Hawks last night. I mean, for 43 minutes, it looked like they were going home. I mean, just when you watch that game, Boston was in control of everything. For about 43, 44 minutes, it looked like I was going to be right. It looked like the Hawks were going home. And then from nowhere, bam, 2001 Trey Young just 2021
took over.
2021 Trey Young just took over the game. It was really crazy. I mean, when you look at just the angles he was shooting from, he refused to lose. He refused to go home. It looked a lot like Trey Young in 2021 when they made the conference finals. He just had the ball and he refused to lose. It was basically Trey Young against all five of the Boston Celtics. And make no mistake about it, the Celtics did a lot of things. They were complicit in that loss last night too. There were a lot of things that they did late in that game that helped them to a defeat. I mean, just bad decision making, bad fouls late, just a lot of bad things. But you know what? If you're the Hawks, you'll take it because now you're coming home for a Game 6.
Hey, last night I said if you can find a way to win this game on the road in Boston without DeJounte Murray, it gets easier from here. I mean, you still got an uphill battle. I mean, let's be honest, the Celtics still have the better roster. You're going to have to win another game in Boston. You can't afford to lose again. It's still a very uphill battle, but the toughest one's probably out of the way. You had to win on the road without DeJounte Murray, and you did it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, right now the Hawks are kind of playing with house money. I mean, I think. I think Game 6, the pressure's on Boston. They have to come back to Atlanta. You know, they didn't want to come back here. Now they've got to drag themselves back here for Game 6 in a crazy environment. It's going to be loud. The Hawks have momentum now because they have life. Last night you gave them life, and they're getting their second best player back. So, yeah, I mean, the Hawks, they're believing right now. So now if you're Boston, you have a Hawks team that's really, really coming off the momentum of a crazy win last night. They're believing in themselves. So now this is going to get harder and harder every game for the Celtics and as they try to close the Hawks out, just because now the Hawks are believing. Now they're believing that they could be that team from a couple years ago, and they're smelling it. And now, you know, they're 2 games closer to defeat as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think I can feel the grip tightening on the Celtics right now because this is going to be a real tight ball game for them tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. The pressure is fully on the Celtics. Can you imagine if this thing goes 7? Even if the Celtics win a 7-game series in the first round against the Hawks, not only does that tire your guys out, it gives the advantage to the Sixers, who would Boston face in the next round?
It'd be the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, it would be the Sixers. So it gives the advantage to them because they're already at home resting. Joel Embiid's probably loving this because he's resting up on his knee. But it also it kind of destroys your confidence a bit, right? Because, I mean, I know Boston fans were coming into this series thinking Celtics in 4, Celtics in 5. And now you're going to 6, maybe 7 games, depending on what happens later this week. So, yeah, kind of a nightmare scenario for Boston. And, yeah, like you said, the Hawks are just playing with house money. I mean, anything that happens at this point, you know, if they come out tomorrow and they lose, it's like, okay, yeah,
right.
That's what we expected from the beginning. They actually did a little better than we expected. Let's run it back next year with Quinn Snyder. Let's try to add to this roster if, you know, that's the direction they want to go. Maybe they go the other way. Maybe they trade off Trae Young and hit a little bit of a reset button. But, yeah, no, I know. Right? Like last night's game, it's crazy that one game might change your mentality a little bit. But I don't know. After last night's game, do you go into this offseason and shop Trae Young? I mean, I guess on one hand, maybe his value's up. But on the other hand, maybe they're feeling like, oh, maybe this is a guy we can build around and win in the future with.
I mean, for the longest time, I've said that, you know, look, if you're in a place like Atlanta, it's any NBA franchise, it's not easy to want to trade a potential or a guy who at times has looked like a superstar player. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know that it was ever on the table to trade Trae Young. I mean, I guess if he fell out with the head coach and fell out with management, but I think they're going to give Trae Young every opportunity to stay here and to be a guy who they'll build around. So moments like yesterday. I mean, just when you watch Trae Young yesterday late in that game, that's the Trae Young that they want to bottle up and have throughout an entire 82-game season, because the Trae Young yesterday was definitely a superstar. He performed on a superstar level. He was the best player in the building yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, when you look at Trae Young performing at that level, he looks like the kind of guy who you want to have here for a long, long time. But, of course, there's those moments where he's just not, it's just not clicking with his teammates. He kind of just maybe disappears a little bit. So, I don't know. I mean, that's just I really hope that we got some audio issues there.
We had some audio issues.
Oh, man, nobody was really hearing what I was saying, man. I was like pouring out my emotion there about the Hawks, and nobody was even hearing. That's kind of crazy.
I could hear you a little bit, so hopefully they could hear you more. Fine. I was looking at our board; everything looked good over here, and
just to round up that,
unplugged you.
But just to round up that statement, though, yeah, I mean, I think last night's game, when you watch it with the Hawks, I think it changes kind of maybe the future of Trae Young in Atlanta, because it just gives everyone a glimpse of what Trae can be on some. There are nights when Trae Young looks about as special as anybody in the NBA. Last night was one of those nights. So I think that if you could just bottle that up and just, take that into the future, yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to give up on what he can do. Just flat out, he's going to be here for a while, I think.
Yeah, I mean, coming off that game last night, I kind of feel the same way. Which, like we've been saying this all postseason, every game kind of feels like a referendum. So, of course, coming off last night's game, I feel like, Trae Young maybe can be that guy.
Right.
Maybe he comes out later this week and has a dud of a game, goes 8 for 30, and then we're singing a different tune. But, yeah, after last night's game, it feels like this is a guy you can build the roster around. Honestly, the Hawks, well, I was going to say they were the biggest game of the night. They were the biggest game of the night in that the underdog won, because in the other two games, they were both close. Nuggets beating the Timberwolves by 3 points, and then the Suns edging out the Clippers by 6 points.
Yeah.
Both of the favorite teams and leading teams advanced in those series in just 5 games. Yeah. Did you get a chance to watch those?
Yeah, I watched mostly the Suns game last night when it looked like the Clippers. And like I said, it's really kind of sad when you watch the Clippers, because you just can't help but think what could have been if Kawhi Leonard would have been there, if Paul George would have been there. The Clippers would have been a totally different team, and I'm not sure that the Suns would be advancing. But, in a realistic world, which is what we have to deal with, the Suns are advancing. They're moving on. They'll be playing the Nuggets next round. That could be a colossal battle. I mean, just when you look at the Nuggets, have looked like a well-oiled machine the entire season into the playoffs. I mean, they did lose a game to the Timberwolves, but that series never looked like it was in doubt.
No.
Yeah, and same thing for the Suns, right? I mean, when Kawhi went out, that pretty much spelled the end of that series. So,
yeah, when Kawhi went out early on, I thought that was one that was going to go 6, maybe 7 games.
For sure.
I mean, that looked like a fun series, and then obviously the injuries just kind of ruined it.
Right.
Even last night late, the Clippers made a run. I think they went on a 13-0 run in the fourth quarter. I mean, it was Suns the whole way. Then all of a sudden, here comes L.A. surging in the fourth quarter. And then they just turned it over and missed shots like the entire – I don't know if they had a point in the final 2 minutes. They completely collapsed. Horrible turnovers. The Suns honestly had a few bad turnovers themselves, trying to let the Clippers hang around, but the Clippers just kind of choked it away. It felt like Westbrook was the only guy worth his salt out there.
Yeah, and then, I think what's scary to the rest of the Western Conference and maybe the NBA is I don't think the Suns have played their best game yet. I think they spent this series against the Clippers just trying to figure themselves out, just for the simple fact that Kevin Durant hasn't been there. Now he's there. So they're still trying to figure out what they are and what their identity is, and they're still winning games in the process. If I think, just kind of when you look at now, this is going to be a really tough series against Denver, right? Because Denver's number 1 seed. They've looked like they've looked like a well-oiled machine the entire season. There's never been really a glimpse. You never really looked at Denver at any time and seen any chinks in their armor. So they're like a really good team. That's going to be a hell of a test for the Phoenix Suns. But, yeah, I think when you look at the Suns, when you look at the star power on that team, I mean, if they get better and better, it's going to be trouble for everybody in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and I mean, the Nuggets haven't had any like horrible stretches, but I mean they've lost pretty handedly to some good teams. So it's not like they're this invincible powerhouse. I mean, the Suns can definitely give them a run for your money. It's kind of crazy to think that, like you said, the Suns are still kind of finding how to play, figuring out how to play together with Durant now there. They're probably going to be continuing to figure that out in the next series. It's going to be interesting because I don't think the Timberwolves were a real test for the Nuggets, and they're definitely about to get one now. So we'll see if Jokic can almost single-handedly take on that star-studded roster down in Phoenix.
Well, look, I mean, we say Jokic single-handedly, but Denver's got some horses. I mean,
I don't. Yeah, I don't mean to disparage the other guys, but I don't think any of them are to the level of Jokic. To the level of Jokic, to the level of Devin Booker, to the level of Kevin Durant.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, they have one superstar, and that's Jokic. But I think when you look at the rest of their team, obviously Jamal Murray is.
It's a good roster.
And I think how they play very well together. So I think that, sometimes that can overcome 3 or 4, superstar, 3 or 4 star type players if you have, a bunch of team. Like I've said from the beginning, that Denver team reminds me a lot of the Dallas Mavericks team in 2011 when they had Dirk Nowitzki there and a bunch of really good players around him. Now, those guys were more veteran there, but they have a bunch of really nice players around Jokic that know their role, know how to play the game. Jamal Murray, at any given time, could take off for 40 points. I mean, that's just what he's been the last couple of years. Well, I guess this year he's been kind of injured the last couple of years and really hasn't been there for him. But, yeah, I mean, I'm just really kind of anxious to see this Denver Nuggets team. Jokic is a 2-time league MVP. Could be a 3rd time. We'll see. And then we've just been waiting for him to have the guys back around him to just see how far they could go if the guys around him were healthy. So I just think that's going to be – I don't even want to pick that series. I mean, just Suns and Nuggets, it's going to be so tough. I don't even want to try to predict that series, honestly.
I don't think there's any way that one's decided in less than 6 games. Anyway.
Probably not.
We got some more games tonight. We're going to move on here because I know you got to get out of here a little bit early tonight. Got 4 games, 3 teams facing elimination tonight. We got Knicks and Cavs. Cavs are facing elimination in that series. They're down 3-1. Lakers, Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, believe it or not, are facing elimination against the 7th seed Lakers. Heat and Bucks, the number 1 overall seed Bucks, are facing elimination. And then you got the Warriors and Kings playing back in Sacramento, tied up 2-2. The home team has won every game in that series. Which one of these are you looking forward to most tonight?
Okay, so personally, I'm looking forward to the Cavs and Knicks, right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Cavaliers fan, but I think from a pure basketball standpoint, I think I'm still right there with that Kings and Warriors series.
It's so fun.
I mean, just the pivotal Game 5 in the series, right? I mean, it's 2-2. De'Aaron Fox has a broken finger, so who knows how that's going to play out. I mean,
he's playing.
He's going to give it a go, so I give him a lot of credit. He has more heart and toughness than a lot of guys playing nowadays because he's actually trying to play through his injury because he understands that, look, I mean, he hasn't been in this situation for his entire career. He's waited his whole career to play in the playoffs. Now that he's here, he wants to squeeze every bit out of it. So I understand why he's going to play through that broken finger. But just the heart of a champion. You want to see how Golden State's going to come out in that game. I mean, they know that, they have 11-30 on the road the entire season. That's not a very good record. And they've also lost the 2 road games in this series so far. So it's going to be really interesting to see, did Golden State go home and get right? Are they going to look more like the championship team that we've seen over the last 6 or 7 years, or is it Sacramento's time? I think so. For me, that's the most intriguing matchup tonight.
Yeah, I mean that's the one. Obviously, like you, I have a dog in the fight here tonight. I'm a Grizzlies fan, so I'm looking forward to that game. By looking forward, I mean I'm gonna watch it. I'm kind of terrified, to be honest, because they've just had our number all series. No Steven Adams. Yeah. They have the size on Memphis. But yeah, from a pure basketball standpoint, that Warriors-Kings series is going to be a lot of fun. From the 3 teams facing elimination, I'm looking up and down the board here, and all 3 teams facing elimination are the home team tonight.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they're all going to win.
They're all going to win?
To be honest. It's 3-1 leads in all of them. Cavs and Knicks. I know the Knicks lead that series 3-1, but I feel like those are 2 pretty evenly matched teams.
This is going back, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are some close games.
Same with the Lakers, Grizzlies. Honestly, I feel like the Grizzlies are the better team. Matchup-wise, it doesn't work out for them. But, regular season doesn't lie. And I know the Lakers were hot down the stretch, but the Grizzlies are a very good team. I think they'll get it done in Memphis tonight. And then the Bucks and Heat, the Bucks are the Bucks. I mean, Giannis is Giannis. Right. That is a very good team. I'm shocked that they're down 3-1. That's not to disrespect Jimmy Butler and that Heat team. They got a lot of veterans there that have been in these situations before. But I think at home in Milwaukee, kind of the same story there. I think Giannis is able to get it done tonight. So I'm hoping, honestly, because I think that's better for playoffs, better for entertainment, better for basketball, that all of these teams win tonight, and we get game 6s and game 7s in a lot of these series, because I just want more basketball.
Well, I'll just quickly touch on some of those. When you look at the Bucks and their situation, I mean, let's be real. In that series, if Giannis was healthy for the entire series, it probably wouldn't be 3-1 right now. So, there's no excuses this time of year. You got what you got, and you have to make do, and it's just about surviving in advance. But I think when you look at that series, I think that's the one where I think a team is most likely to come down 3-1 and win the series, because I think that with Giannis back now and him playing, let's be real, they let last game slip. There's no way they should have lost. They did lose. I mean,
Butler put up 56. He kind of willed his team to the win.
Right. So the Milwaukee Bucks can win 3 games in a row. So to me, that's the one I think where the team down 3-1 has the most realistic chance to come back and win the series. I don't give Memphis much of a chance to come back and win that series, just for the simple fact. Like I say, I don't think this is Memphis' time. Just for the simple fact that, like I said last night, they just don't seem overall, from a basketball standpoint and from a mental standpoint, mature enough to be able to beat a team like the Lakers that's seasoned, that is a championship-level team. I just don't think Memphis is there right now. I don't think their mental is there right now. And quite frankly, just as far as their style of basketball, I think it's just a poor matchup against the Lakers. So
it is.
I think that series goes no longer than 6 games. I mean, maybe the crowd gets into it tonight, and they some of those shots that didn't fall in Game 5 are able to fall in this game, and maybe they get a win tonight. But I'm going to stick with what I originally said. That series is over in 6. Without by 6 games. I mean, the Lakers might win tonight, but I think it's certainly over in Game 6.
They could. Yeah. I mean, it's the home court advantage in all of these that's making me lean to the home teams.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and move on here to some baseball. My favorite topic.
For sure.
The Braves. They were hot out of the gate. Looked like one of the best teams in baseball. Stumbled there, lost 4 in a row, got swept by the Astros. But they've quietly won 2 or 3 in a row now and have the second best record in all of baseball. They're tied with the Pirates, of all people. The Pirates are right up there with them atop the NL. And they're just 2 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays, who, of course, started the season on that 17-game win streak. Was it 17? Oh, however long, historic win streak to start the year.
Yeah.
The Braves just kind of quietly right atop the MLB again, even after stumbling a bit here early in April.
So they're 16-8 right now. So
they are. I want to say they're 17. Hold on, I'll get the number pulled up for you right now.
I thought I said they were 16-8. But yeah, I mean, this is what I expected from.
No,
the
you're
Braves.
right. They're 16-8.
Yeah. So this is what I expected from the Braves the entire season. I mean, like I said, they're going to be right there at the top of baseball the entire year. My prediction was 110 wins, 120 wins? Mm-hmm. I know I predicted them I think it was 110 wins. I predicted for them this season. So, yeah, I mean, this is not anything that I didn't expect. I knew even though they've had some early injuries in the season, some pitching issues.
Had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, they've had some injuries, but I think they have enough players and enough depth to be able to overcome those injuries, especially in April. I mean, if you can overcome those injuries now earlier in the season and get those guys back, I mean, and I think that this is one of the strongest teams from top to bottom. When I look at their lineup, from top to bottom, this is one of the strongest lineups, I think, in Major League Baseball. So they're going to be right there regardless of what happens with the pitching staff, just because they can hit their way into a lot of games too.
That's been the most impressive thing for me, is their ability to play through these injuries and continue to win at the best rate in baseball. Their rotation, at one point there in the second week of the season, they were down to one. Like, when you looked at the starters coming into the year, the 5 guys that you thought would make up the starting rotation, they had one of them left.
Yeah.
And they were still winning games. Arcia has gone down. Grissom's had to come in and fill in for him. He's had some, defensive problems, as was expected. Which was the knock on him. Yeah, but he's been, good at the plate. This lineup's been able to hit. The top 4 have been unbelievable. Ronald Acuna, who still isn't hitting for a lot of power right now. He only has 3 home runs on the year, but he leads the MLB in hits, leads MLB in stolen bases. He is 3rd in WAR in the MLB, 2nd in batting average, 4th in on-base percentage. So, I mean, he's already looking like an MVP favorite out of the gate. If he figures out how to get that power back, which honestly I think he's going to, looking at his numbers, it's more about the launch angle off the bat than his power. He's just not elevating the ball, and I think he'll be able to figure that out. I mean, yeah, he's looking very likely to have an MVP type of season and carry the Braves to a division title and hopefully a lot more.
And I'm looking at that as maturing as a player, right? So even though your power might not be there, you're still finding ways to be effective as a hitter. So I think that all around, that's maturing of a player. You know, he's becoming a more well-rounded threat, and that's only dangerous. That's only going to be dangerous for the other teams later, because when you look at it, and Acuna, who can, you know, he hasn't even, like you said, he hasn't even got his power where it needs to be at, and that normally starts once the weather heats up, right? I mean, around the league, and
that's true too.
You know, once we get into June and July, and that ball starts flying off the bat, when the weather gets warm, those home runs will get up for sure.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. And hey, you know, you don't always have to hit one in the gap for a double when you can hit a single and steal second every single time, which feels like he can just do at will this year. You know, coming into the year, I said he'd have a 40-40 season. He's probably going to have 60 stolen bases at the rate he is. He might have more, honestly. Yeah. I mean, you look at the pace he's on pace for an insane amount of stolen bases. It's the homers that, you know, could keep him from getting there. But
I mean, who knows if he gets to 40? But I think he'll have a fine amount of number of home runs by the time the season is over with, and the average is up there and everything will be up there. He'll be fine. He'll be, you know, by the time we get to July, he'll probably have a bunch of homers that month and get hot. You know how this goes over the summer. You know,
yeah.
So once we get, like I say, once the weather starts to juice up a little bit, the ball starts to fly out a little bit more, he'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Scott, I know you got to get out here a little bit early tonight, so we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and ask you what's on your mind.
So my NFL draft tomorrow, man. I mean, we've been talking about the draft for so long now, as far as what teams at the top are going to do, what the Falcons are going to do, what everybody's going to do. I'm just looking forward to seeing this play out tomorrow, just for the simple fact, all these lies that different people for these teams are telling, saying we're interested in this guy and we're interested in that guy and all that stuff that comes with the draft. I'm just looking forward to play out tomorrow night, just to see how this trickles down, how many quarterbacks go at the top of the draft, what kind of wheeling and dealing is going to take place at the top of the draft. I'm just ready for it to be here so we can see this thing shake down tomorrow night.
What's on my mind, also draft related, I think, you know, we've got these top four quarterbacks that everyone has predicted everywhere all over the board. I think all of them have been predicted to go number one from someone. You know, you've got Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis. I think one of those four is going to fall a lot further than we expect. There's just been too many rumors about, you know, guys having teams having a problem with this guy for this reason or this guy for this reason, and teams, you know, talking about trading back and stuff. So I think that one of these guys, and I don't know which one, I really don't, because I've never been more certain of what the top of that draft board is going to look like going into draft night, but one of them is going to fall further than expected, and maybe a team there in the middle of the draft order is going to get a steal. Yeah,
I mean, it's just so many teams right now that I could look at and say they could really go for a quarterback. I mean, could the Falcons surprise you? I don't know. You know, I'm just saying, just when you look at things up and down this roster, up and down with this draft, it could get so crazy because, all right, let's say the Falcons come into the draft tomorrow night, like, we're pretty good at quarterback, and all of a sudden you look up at 8 and C.J. Stroud is there.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I think somehow, which I think is in the realm of possibility,
right?
If he is there, you've got to take him, right? And I mean, we've talked about how the Falcons' draft strategy as of late has kind of been take the best player available.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think at that point he might be the best player available.
I'm just saying. I mean, just because I think a lot of these teams are kind of enamored with Anthony Richardson in Florida, just with his physical tools and physical abilities. I think a guy like C.J. Stroud, you know, there's been some things that people sort of thrown out there about, you know, character things that who knows if those things are true or not. But let's just say that some of those teams feed into that, and he does drop down that board. If you're a team like the Falcons at 8, who maybe you like Desmond Ridder, but you didn't expect C.J. Stroud to be there, to still be sitting there at number 8, what if he's still sitting there? What do you do?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, worst case scenario, you end up in a situation like the Niners have been the last 2 years with too many quarterbacks, and you're trying to figure out how to ship one of them off. So I think that's a possibility tomorrow. I don't think it's a likely outcome, but I think it's within the realm of possibilities, and we'll see around this time tomorrow night.
Yeah, or just one of those. You know, what if one of those defensive players slip? I mean, we've talked about maybe a run on quarterbacks in the first 3 or 4 picks. Does that mean like a guy like Will Anderson might slip? Does that mean a guy like Jalen Carter may slip? I'm just saying.
Somebody almost has to, right? When you look at the teams up there, someone is going to fall. I mean, it happens every year. Yeah. And someone's going to get a steal at some point, and maybe it'll be Atlanta. Well, Scott, we'll find out about this time tomorrow night. We'll know a lot more about some of these NBA
for sure
game fives, and we'll talk about all of it.
Let's get up out of here.
All right. See you guys.
See you guys.